Hey everybody, Fleet Feet back with another war selection video. This time, again, it's a 1v1. This time, the replay was given to me by Suxlike. It's a replay of him versus Marmeladaaa. Just a little bit of background. Suxlike is a relatively newer player, I think, but very high on the ladder, usually grinds 1v1s a lot. You can find him playing on Discord, playing pretty prolifically, is generally considered a really, really good player. Probably easily within the top 10 of 1v1 at any given time. Actually, we could probably look at that. There he is. So actually, it's these two players against each other. So the way that the ladder usually works is that people typically grind pretty early on in the ladder and then stagnate. So your ranking on the ladder at this point is your commitment to the grind more so than your skill, X factor. I don't know if that's actually true. That's my general understanding, at least, because typically what will happen when you get into these higher number ranges is that the matchmaking system will match like you against. So if Suxlike were to match up and I were to match up against Suxlike is probably twice as good as me. But if I have a 10% chance to win, if I beat Suxlike, I get like 100 points. So he would lose 100 points, I'd get like 100 points or 50 or whatever the frick it is, some high number. But if Suxlike would beat me, all he would get is 10 points. So in order to get super duper high on the ladder like this, you have to super grind. Like French meat? Alright. This is 100% pure French meat. But it's not pizza, which is curious. I'm suspicious of that. Anyway. Let's carry on. Suxlike and Marmeladaaa are both easily top 10 players if they are grinding the ladder. Like, they're fantastic players overall. Suxlike is relatively new and grinds super hard and has been playing basically anybody he can get his hands on for a while. It's awesome. And Marmeladaaa is super old school. Marmeladaaa and X Factor and Pizza are three of the names that you'll probably see on this this top 20 list for as long as they play. Like if they bother to grind the 1v1, they'll be up there. They're fantastic players that have been around forever. And honestly, a lot of my early learning of war selection was from replays that I managed to dredge up of Marmeladaaa games. So my openings are very similar to Marmelada's openings, and my understanding of the game is based largely on what Marmeladaaa does. So this is another tournament replay from the tournament that was going on in private Discords. Hopefully I'm not getting overlap with Wacho, because I believe Wacho will be casting some of the games from this tournament as well. I'll have to let him know and make sure we don't overlap. But this game is Suxlike versus Marmeladaaa. It's a double population, 10-minute peacetime game. Let's jump into the replay and take a look at what's going on. What I'm going to do for this game is I'm actually not going to do the Fog of War. I'm just going to stay. We're just going to watch Suxlike cam the entire game. I like the way that Suxlike plays. I know a decent amount of what Marmeladaaa does in the game, but we're just going to do this purely from Suxlike cam and kind of analyze what's going on along the way and note some of the good stuff that he does and the good decisions that he makes along in the game, just so you can kind of carry him over into your own games and appreciate this match, because this is a high level with two really solid players. This is fairly early on in the tournament, I believe. This is, I think, day one, or like the first set of the tournament. I'm not entirely sure how the format works. I'm hoping that Wacho, when he puts out videos, does a better coverage of the tournament overall, because I'm not actually sure where in the tournament this is. I'm not paying that much attention to the way that it goes down. One of the things that Suxlike consistently seems to do in his openings is this first scout will scout backwards first. It'll almost always scout like the opposite direction, both to get an idea of the landmass and to figure out what resources he's working with and what animals he needs to avoid. It seems to help Suxlike plan out his base as he's going a lot better than, well, I would, for example. So instead of some players in 1v1s will just beeline their scout to the opponent's base to get information on what their opponent is doing as soon as possible, Suxlike does not seem to want to do that too much. For some reason we're supply blocked. I think that's just because we got too many dudes on food altogether, so we couldn't build houses fast enough. Doing this doesn't actually help you go faster, because the reason you can't build faster is no wood. So it'll get it marginally faster when you get like those final dudes, but overall it doesn't help you to go that much faster. Heavy prioritization on the upgrades from the warehouse is pretty neat. I think obviously in this case it was too fast because you ended up cutting yourself workers, but kind of setting yourself up for the early game. continuing to scout with the, well, scout, he's noticed that there's like a weird little passageway that possibly leads off, so there's no telling if this is just shoals or an actual landmass. If it's an actual landmass, it changes the shape of the map quite a bit. But given what we've seen so far, we talked previously about how in 1v1s it'll always have you positioned opposite sides of the landmass. So if he doesn't see, I don't know where this scout is going particularly, if he doesn't see Marmeladaaa somewhere down here, like if he doesn't start to see his borders fairly soon, then he knows that this connects to a bigger landmass somewhere over here. And it might be like a U-shaped, if you can see my mouse on the map, a U-shaped land mass like that. Because if this does not connect to a landmass, and this is just a shoal, and there's no actual landmass over here, and it's just ocean, then he would see Marmelada's borders like here, because his Marmeladaaa would have spawned like here. You can also do a trick in... Let's see if I can do it. There's a... If you look at the shape, this... what is this, a rhomboid shape that the map has? If you're over landmass, you'll see that because it changes the perspective of the camera, this shape actually distorts. But if you're just above water, it does not. So you can see the top edge of that is completely flat. So if your camera is going over something that's completely flat, it will not distort. So if we wanted to know if this top edge was entirely water or not, we run our camera along it and we see that this camera edge dips in the minimap here. That means that the thing that we're looking at right now is high ground. Even though we can't see it through the shade, we know that it's high ground. So we know that there's deviations in the land here, and that this is probably actually land. Our scout for Suxlike is all the way down at the bottom here. We've actually found a connecting unit here. So at this point, because we haven't seen Marmeladaaa here, we expect that this landmass is likely connected, and then Marmeladaaa is all the way up in a corner somewhere up here, or he's like actually buried in this corner all the way. We can see trees here, so it's possible that he's buried all the way in this corner. But then this landmass wouldn't make any freaking sense. Back at home, what do we got going on? We have an astounding 34 workers. It's the double population game, so we won't see a double population and 10-minute peacetime, so we won't see a lot of Stone Age aggression. But we will slowly progress up and tech up and yeah, and just like take all the time that we want to set up our economy properly. Looks like he's going into the Bronze Age relatively early. This is probably because he's got so much access to fish basically all the way around him. There's no pier places to build here, which kind of sucks. Like this shoreline all kind of sucks because you have to go all the way down here to build another pier for this, but he's got this area back here where he can build like a pier and a pier and a pier and get good range to all of these fish. This is something that is very good to do overall. If you're going into the Bronze Age, as soon as Bronze Age finishes, the game will remove all of the blueprints for Stone Age buildings that you have, but it will not delete buildings that are currently in progress. So if you get a worker to go around like this and start a whole bunch of fight pits, then when your Bronze Age actually finishes, you can send workers to actually finish these buildings, and it saves you having to build these entire buildings earlier, and lets you build a very massive Stone Age push off of the back of an Asian economy without having to have built all 8 of these fight pits, 9 of these fight pits, before Bronze Age finishes. It's just a nice little way to do things. We're finally getting our scout all the way into Marmelada's base, so we finally found it. We are resting in the comfort of the fact that he is extremely far away from us. If this connects through, we haven't actually confirmed whether or not this connects through. We suspect it does based on our weird little camera trick, that because it's deviating a lot, so it's not flat ground here. So there's probably the case that there's like a mountain range between here. It's possible that it gets cliff blocked along the way, but if this connects through, then he's got a relatively direct access to our base. But it's possible that this is the only access that he has to our base, and we can pretty quickly wall this off, even if he wants to attack directly. We wall off this tiny choke, we can set up some towers behind it. If this shoal goes really far, then he can't even build towers or anything to protect, so it's a very easily defensible position. This is the other choke. If we get all the way the heck down here and wall this off, then we've secured whatever land mass exists back here for ourselves. It's very hard to break a wall, especially since both players are going Asia. You don't get very many tools to break walls until you get to elephants or ballistas. and it can be a real pain in the butt. We did get our scout in here. We did get to see that he has gone to Asia as well. We don't actually see any fight pits yet. There are a couple of buildings back here in the Fog of War that could be fight pits. So it's possible that he has like 1, 2, 13 fight pits, and he's coming at us with a whole bunch of stone stuff. But we did see that it was still in progress at the time, and we didn't see a whole swell of warriors already. So we know that we've got a minute or two before we need to wall up and start thinking defensively. Actually, probably longer than that. It takes 18 seconds to make a worker, or to make a warrior. Does it? I feel like it takes 18 seconds to make a warrior. But you can see back at home we've got defensive play in mind, where we're getting the archer upgrades, we're getting a bunch of shooting ranges, we are getting those piers online like we talked about, and in a double population game this is fantastic because we get basically free, air quotes, free worker production. Because it's double population, we're going to have a crap ton of pop. Like we're at, we would be at 120 maximum population right now just because we start at 60 doubled. We're getting the population upgrade as well, so we're going to go 180. So we will have an absolute ton. Walling off way back here means that we're also going to wall off this, otherwise why would we wall off that? Unfortunately there's a mammoth there, that's not great. And we haven't scouted through here yet to see if there's actually a way through here either. But we do have a bunch of shooting ranges, so we can start putting out archers, and they'll just start clearing out some of this area so that we can secure these resources for ourselves, even the event that we get Stone Age attacked. If we look at what we can see through the Fog of War, it looks like this is a warehouse and this is a warehouse, based on their positioning and the fact that you see the trees falling through the Fog of War. We don't see a bunch of buildings out here, which would be a good sign that we're getting attacked. So either weirdly Marmeladaaa built all his fight pits back, or we're just not getting attacked earlier. It'd be unusual for Marmeladaaa to play an offensive style and have these buildings be his fight pits, because that's an extra 6 or 7 seconds of walking for the warriors to get out front, whereas if he was going to go aggressive, you can see there's dead animals out here already, so something has happened. Again, this is exactly what Suxlike could see in the actual game. You see dead animals out here, so there's some level of forces. We don't know if these are cows or deer or what. But if we were expecting aggression, we would see buildings out here, or if he can get through here, buildings closer to his base, basically. There's potential that there's buildings way the hell out here, but we don't know what is happening way the hell out here. And we're walling up and building defensively anyway. Looks like we cleared out that mammoth. The mammoth might still be there. We cleared out a boar at least. The mammoth is still there. He's still got a couple of minutes left of life. We're actually supply blocked, but we're at 180 maximum supply, so we need more huts. But we need to find space for those huts. We've got all this area. We've got room for another 6 or 7 fight pit, or 7 shooting ranges if we want. And on Suxlike's side, we're going to see kind of the formation of a strategy here. What we're seeing the parts of, this is unfortunate, what we're seeing the parts of is defensive play into aging up. Because we have an economic advantage, we scouted our opponent's base. He has a small chunk of water that might connect all the way through, but we don't think it does because we still suspect that this is land mass based on what the camera does. You can't really see it that well there, but you can see that it wobbles, like the edge of this side wobbles as you go along. You see the obvious mountain range there. So this does not connect. So this is a small pool. He doesn't have access to much fish. He has to have his entire economy based purely on workers, unless he gets all the way down to like build a fishery down here or something. He's stuck just on workers. We have a better economy because we have piers, we have easy access to fish, so we get to have these any number of fishing ships that we can afford to sustain a better economy, because it means we need less dudes here to mine food. We get all our food here. We have to build fewer workers, which means that we can have a better economy quicker and age up quicker, because our worker production, as it were, comes out of these rather than this. Frees up TC time to start on the Iron Age means that we should be ahead in tech, unless Marmeladaaa sacrifices economy to get ahead in tech. So if Marmeladaaa stopped at like 50 workers, because we should be at like 65 or 60 workers or so, if Marmeladaaa stopped at 60 workers, then he'd get 110 seconds faster into his, stopped at 50 workers, 110 seconds faster into his Iron Age. But we're assuming that he didn't. As it is, Suxlike has about 60 workers and 7 or 8 boats. It's a pretty damn strong economy. It's a pretty confident play to wall up here, wall up here, wall up here, and say, hey, I'm going to be ahead of you in ages. I can go for a later age timing and be ahead of you in ages, or be equal in ages but ahead in economy, because I have ships where you can't as easily have ships. Again, this isn't hard and fast because it's quite possible that Marmeladaaa has expanded to, like, if the shore reaches here and there's plantable shore, he could have fishing boats over here and we wouldn't know about it, but we got ours pretty much immediately, so still we'd have a slight economic advantage. It's still a reasonable play to wall in and tech up. Because walling shuts down a hell of a lot of aggro plays. We saw that Marmeladaaa was Asia, so we're not there's no European push that would actually crush through that wall. There are not that many Asian pushes that go through walls very easily, especially not early. So we're defended up. We're good to go. We can just tech up to right into the Middle Ages and go for an elephant push, or a bunch of archers and a bunch of ballistas, or like a lot of different things. We actually chose West Asia. And that's probably because West Asia is really good at taking space, essentially. West Asia does a lot better with like a meaty death ball push than East Asia. East Asia does in late Middle Ages when you can get hand cannons and a bunch of infantry to support them. But West Asia is better at having elephant pushes, or a bunch of Sipaks to harass and taking control of the map. East Asia doesn't have great tools to take the map back if you've already lost the map until you get to late Middle Ages and start getting hand cannons, but West Asia has a couple of different tools to take back the map. And it looks like, judging from our mini-map, Marmeladaaa has decided that he's going to be the one walling off this choke down here. And it looks like he's pushing forward with towers or something, because he's got vision all the way out here. And this is nice from Suxlike. As soon as he noticed that this is actually a through path, Marmeladaaa exclaiming WTF on account of he didn't actually know that this connected, I assume. So there's a bunch of warriors that, or a bunch of archers that are just getting to run freely into his base, because I think Marmeladaaa assumed that this is the only access between their bases. He assumed it was a giant U-shaped map like this. So we get some panic towers being set up to protect his economy, resources, spaces. And more importantly than any kind of damage that this is going to do for Suxlike, it tells him where his opponent is. So he's intentionally going all the way back here to the place where he can see his opponent's TC. He knows his Middle Ages is some 30 seconds off. He sees his opponent's TC, and his opponent is not in early Middle Ages. So this alleviates a lot of the pressure mentally, because he knows that his opponent isn't going to suddenly have a big push that he wasn't expecting. He knows that his opponent probably just kept producing workers to maintain an economy and hasn't rushed an age to try for a timing. Again, it's possible that he's going to has fishing ships somewhere over here or something. This attack didn't do that much damage. You can see it killed a couple of workers. There are bodies there. But more importantly than any of that, his forces got him information on what his opponent is doing, and now he can assume that they are either equal or he is slightly ahead in age timing, because he had units scouting his TC at about the same time that he hit Middle Ages. That means that his Middle Ages timings are going to be good, because Middle Ages units do, like, there are a lot of West European timings that are hard for East Europe to deal with. For example, if he did build some elephant houses, get some elephants out before Marmeladaaa can get to Middle Ages and get crossbows himself, or a sufficient amount of archers, essentially, it would be hard for him to get units out. We can see Marmeladaaa is smartly pushing his stuff out to secure this location, because the way that Marmeladaaa set himself up this game, he had no idea that this connects. But if Marmeladaaa controls this space and controls down here, he secured the entire map for himself, or more than half of the map, depending on what the hell's happening down here. Whereas Suxlike has walled off here and here and here, and has said, hey, I'm not going to leave this space. This space has the resources that I need to get to the timing that I need to kill you. If Marmeladaaa pushes forward here, or recognize that, pushes forward here with towers, just puts up a tower like here, there's nothing that Suxlike can do to stop it, and Marmeladaaa would have vision of the entire map. It looks like Marmeladaaa had actually set up fishing boats, and again we get to see this, so we get more scouting information. This is not a Middle Ages pier, so it's either the case that it just isn't yet, and he hasn't bothered to upgrade it yet, or doesn't have the resources to upgrade it, or it means that Marmeladaaa is not yet early Middle Ages. Actually, we can see here that through the fog of war, this is again what Suxlike can see, we can see that there's this circle around here. That is the circle of the Eastern Middle Age, or Eastern Asia Middle Ages TC. So you can see that outline of it. Marmeladaaa, I could turn Fog of War off, but once I do, it's gone forever. So it looks like we know that our opponent has gotten Middle Ages now. So he's not upgrading that, and he went Eastern Middle Ages. So what we're expecting is there is no, as far as I know, there is no scary Eastern Middle Ages early timing that has the capacity to break down walls that easily. Like, he can build spring alds, which don't do that much damage to buildings and don't crack through walls that quickly. He could build rocket carts? I think they're called rocket carts. It looks like he's pushing up towers here so that he can again secure this location. And we can just appreciate how much of the map Marmeladaaa has right now. But as Suxlike, we know that we're actually building some stables, so it looks like we're building some Supak, which is awesome. At least I assume. I don't see much point in Oglan, but maybe he wants to move Oglan, try and move Oglan around the map to harass. I don't know. But we have a lot of information on what our opponent is doing. We see that he's East Asia. He has upgraded this barracks, so he's going to have a lot of infantry. But we don't know what these buildings are. We don't know if they're more barracks or shooting ranges or what. There's like Ashigaru pushes and stuff that you can do, but again, they're going to be hard stopped by this wall plus archers. So we know that there's a good chance that Marmeladaaa will not be able to get through our wall until he gets to late Middle Ages and has hand cannons. If he gets to late Middle Ages, has hand cannons, and still has this position, it's really bad for us. We can, as West Asia, get the artillery towers, but we don't have a lot of space here to produce artillery towers and actually do anything meaningful with them. Hand cannons, if he got a decent number of them, and if these are shooting ranges, then he would have a decent number of them, are going to be able to smash through this wall, and it's going to be really hard for us to fight out of this choke, and there's not a lot of ground for us to cover. On the reverse side, we don't have any good way to kill buildings yet, and it looks like Marmeladaaa has secured this place. There are at least 3 towers up there and probably some army. We have a long way to go through Marmelada's territory before we can actually get to his proper base, but we're ahead in ages, so we should have a stronger army overall. I'm curious about the Supaks here. Because it's a locked-off map, because we saw Marmeladaaa has this territory, has a couple of towers, we can assume, and we saw, I don't know if Suxlike saw, that Marmeladaaa was constructing a wall here, so there's some kind of wall across here. The Supaks don't feel like they would do that much in this situation, because you can't get out here. You can assume that there's an army that we saw earlier here. He's safe enough to build a warehouse here and start collecting these trees, so that means that Marmeladaaa is pretty confident in the space that he has controlled here. I guess the case is that we know that he's East Asia, so he's gonna have... These could be stables. He could have a bunch of East Asian horse archers, which would be annoying for us. But maybe he's expecting this, because this was upgraded, maybe he's expecting there just to be a big troop of infantry. Oh, looks like we're getting shot by a springald, so we're getting sieged. Maybe he's expecting a big troop of infantry, and then Supaks and Mamluks are crazy good against infantry, especially when they're supported by archers, because their archers are then forced to either try and snipe the Supak or Mamluk before they kill all of them, because they do splash damage, or try and fight the archers straight up. They basically function as tanks for the archers that you have to deal with, because if you don't deal with them, they do a shit ton of damage. But we can see the Springald is sieging down the base, but it does not do much damage at all. So it took 2 shots, it did no damage. If he's building more back here, we can't tell, but if he like comes up with 3 or 4 springalds and takes a couple salvos at this, then he'll start to kill us. Or Sipak's building ballistas in defense, ballistas outrange with little springalds. So this is our answer to the thing that we saw, where he's got springalds and possibly rocket carts coming, or possibly some other stuff. We don't know. It's a scary dark map, but we know that we're stronger, even though it's a scary dark map. We could scout around with these sampan if we wanted to, but we can see the shoreline and we can see that there's no, at least in the places we can see, there are no docks built, so we don't need to worry about a mysterious, suspicious attack. It looks like Suxlike's going to move out with his thing. So we see that infantry army was just standing here the entire time. They were just defending. Let's see how these Sipaks and Mamluks do. Even with the Mamluk armor upgrade, he still just got chopped a lot. They're still going down pretty fast, but even when they do go down pretty fast, the hits they get in, like, look at how much damage it did to so many people there. In the back line, these couple of little spearmen are getting decimated. The ballista probably just casually murdered the shit out of an archer. But we need our ballistas to be able to get through. Oh, no, they can actually hit that one. So they can snipe this tower from down below, or from the safety of the wall. But they will not be able to get any of these other towers unless they go through the wall. And if they go through the wall, they need to worry about Marmelada's entire force of archers running forward and sniping them, because that's what they will want to do. Sarbras overall are better than East Asian archers, as far as I remember. I'm just going to check the numbers real quick to verify that that's a thing. Yeah, they do more damage. They shoot faster. I don't know how close they are in accuracy. But they do less damage, but shoot faster. Huh. But yeah, we've got... They're all locked onto that tower, so that tower can get salvoed down from the safety of the walls. If their archers run forward, we fight their archers. But we're starting the... What Suxlike needs to do to win this game is to start taking territory back. There's potential for a scary push behind because he has no vision here. Hey, look, he finally did build a pier on this fishing landmass. But we're pushing out with our ballista, so we have 3 ballista. We have 200 supply. Holy, double pump is crazy. And we're actually he's interestingly continuing to put out Sipaks. So it's unusual for me, kind of, to see cavalry as part of a standing army. I don't actually see this that much, just because it's usually very unruly to control. But they will function in this army as tanks for the archers. And unlike elephants, they actually will stand up. Like this ball of archers, it will absolutely decimate elephants, because elephants' hitboxes are so huge. He's actually got Chokonu as well. So this is a good reason we didn't go elephants, is that he's got Chokonu, so he's got the East Asian crossbow equivalent. It's just so interesting that these Sipak are actually in this game. And now that he's broken this space, if this isn't walled off, or this isn't walled off, like if Marmeladaaa hasn't taken advantage of the time he bought himself here to put a wall across here or something, which it would delay the game, it wouldn't necessarily stop everything. But if he hasn't, then these Sipak can start looking for opportunities to poke. Like they can run along this shoreline and go, there's a warehouse down here that he sees, so he can go annoy that, or he can go try and kill the pier down there, or he could just apparently go right the hell around the army and get into whatever's happening back here. We actually do see that these are all shooting ranges, which we kind of knew based on the number of archers that were kicking around here, but we've got this fight going on here. These ballistas are going to try to chop down this probably, but oh my god, you get to do so much damage here. Like, this is such a shitty position for Marmeladaaa, because he doesn't have a way to stop this. Like, he has his army has to come back, his army has to defend here, or his army has to defend there. And he's actually got workers that were building buildings that have since stopped, and because he's microing shit back here, the workers are just going to go fight the battle, which is kind of awesome. And yeah, this is only half of his army, because the other half of his army is trying to finish these stupid, annoying, low-health cavalry units off. Yeah, there's that. So you see that outer circle. And it looks like Suxlike's actually taken this fight pretty great. He can get those guys to finish off this last eastern tower. He's lost a decent number of archers overall, but the fact that he has siege weapons to support this and an annoying harassing set of units in the back here, like Marmeladaaa has multiple fronts that he needs to defend, whereas really Suxlike only has this, can just like, you can just select all these and tell them to go attack forward and they'll basically do what they need to do, and then he can focus his attention on microing around these things. It looks like he's finally, Marmeladaaa did a good job of splitting off just a small contingent of archers to go deal with that, meaning the rest of them could be at the front here, but it looks like he's lost this position already, and once he starts losing these unit producing structures, I don't know how he holds. Back at home, Suxlike has actually just finished Late Middle Ages and starting up IR Turkey research, and it looks like he's just going to keep producing units off of all of his buildings as quickly as he can. He's done a good job of keeping his ballista in defensive position so he doesn't need to rebuild them. He doesn't actually have workers here that could do that, but the army composition of Suxlike in this double pop game is so cool, where like even here you can see the Sipak run in, and the archers have to deal with them, and they still get like 5 or 6 hits off, which is just so much damage to this massive infantry units. And because Marmeladaaa is East Asia, unless he's late Middle Ages now and hand cannons are going to come out in a second, it's going to be incredibly hard for him to hold this. We actually have workers just boldly running forward and trying to build a tower in the middle of the archer line. That's funny. That didn't really work. Yeah, towers to reinforce this push. Hoping to dear God that there's no weird shenaniganery coming up behind. He's actually got a ton more. So he's going to just keep rallying Sipak across the map, I guess, to support his archers and support this push. But right now, Suxlike is in a dominating position. The early economy lead that he got from having this position with these food and then recognizing that and using that to have the tech advantage, and then the somewhat of a gamble timing that Marmeladaaa goes for going East Asia and trying to get to those hand cannons, I assume that's what he was going for at least, just doesn't quite make it, because I assume that he's either he's close to late Middle Ages, or he's just working on it now if he can, but yeah, Marmeladaaa taps out. He knows that once these buildings start going down, once this whole gate is open, he doesn't have enough units to stop this without having to deal with these. And so he can't be in 2 places at once, and the rally of units and the better economy, the damage that was done here just hurts so much. Yeah, there you go. So Marmeladaaa invested a bunch in defending this, apparently. So he's got towers and walls and stuff down here. Rough. Rough. It's the early advantage of... Yeah, it sucks like I realized that too. It's funny that both players did not know that this landmass connected. Neither of them actually scouted this way, because they're both good players and we're expecting it to be divided diagonally across the landmass. So basically as soon as Marmeladaaa would have scouted like this shoreline, you'd have been like, oh, he's down here somewhere. But the map can be fickle. Very well played on Suxlike part. I like the multi-composition army where it has like different prongs to it. It's got the siege element, it's got the like base element, and then it's got both a harassing unit and a tank in the Sipak. That's really cool. Good game to both players overall, and I think that's it for this recording this week. Next week I'll probably actually get him, see if I can get a 1v1 replay from either Marmeladaaa or X Factor, just to see how they play, because they're both they're kind of the old guard of War Selection. They're extremely good players, and we watched Marmeladaaa lose today, but that's certainly not indicative of his skill overall. I'd certainly like to watch more of those players. So thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe if you'd like more content. I'll be putting out videos every Wednesday for the foreseeable future, as long as my internet holds up. Please hit a like if you liked the video, and leave comments in the comments if you want to see any particular thing or just like where I'm going with this. So thanks for watching. I'll catch y'all later.